Welcome back to another episode of On the Spot Sports. I'm Jack, and today we are joined by a very special guest, Frankie McClendon of the Federal Hockey League for the Columbus River Dragons. Frankie, how are you?
Hey, I'm good, man. How are you doing? Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no problem. I'm doing good, and interesting times we're having, huh?
Yeah, with this whole quarantine and shelter in place, there's really not much to do but just sit around or go on walks and then play video games or read books. So I'm having a time just doing that.
Yeah, for sure. It's a very weird time. I'm doing the same thing, but it's also good to get that recovery time that you need, especially from playing
Oh,
so often.
oh, for sure. And this year was a suitcase year for me. On three teams, that's something new for me. But to go from Carolina to Minner and then finally ended up in Columbus, it was a lot of moving around. So my body and my mind were kind of really shot by the end of all of this. So it's good to get that quality rest time.
Yeah, for sure. I got a lot of interesting stuff to talk about, especially since like your suitcase season. Well, that'll come up towards the end. So you want to get started?
Yeah, let's go.
All right. So you grew up in California. So what was it like playing hockey in California? Since
Uh,
it isn't really a hockey state, but you, is how was it there?
Oh, I wouldn't say it's not a hockey state anymore. I
Yeah.
mean, you got to look at like the Kings and the Sharks, like both teams that get into Stanley Cup Finals, even the Ducks a long time ago. Uh, when I was growing up, it wasn't really a hockey hotbed, but you can tell during those times there was a lot of kids coming out of California to leave to go play either juniors and like on the East Coast or in Canada and ECHL or guys who are like getting into D1 colleges. So when I was growing up, I mean, I started really late with hockey. I didn't start until probably I was 9 or 10 years old, and I was a defenseman at first. And that's really shocking. Um, but I only did like 2 years of defense, and then I switched over to being a goalie because I just didn't want to skate, and I kind of reaped those words, telling my parents, I just don't want to skate. I just want to stand in the net. And I figured out very quickly that goalies skate a lot more than forwards and defensemen.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I was in the same situation as you where I started out, but instead of defense, I played forward, and then about like 5 years ago, I switched to playing goal. So,
Yeah.
what made you
Yeah.
get into playing goalie?
I remember like there was a couple of like games where I went down to block a shot, and I really wasn't scared of blocking shots or anything like that. But I was always like fascinated by like the goalie equipment and like the goalie helmets on like the design and everything. So like once I started like stopping shots and like games and stuff like on a PK or something, it just switched, and I told my parents, hey, I kind of want to try this goalie thing out. And I remember the rink gave me some like rental pads, and my first ever goalie coach, he like coached goalies that went to like NCAA one. And like I gotta give credit to him because like if it wasn't for him and like some other coaches there, I don't think I would have stuck through it. But honestly, I had so much fun doing it, I just stuck with it.
Yeah, for sure. It's a really fun position to play. I was
It can be.
yeah, that is true. I was I was always skeptical of playing goal, but then my friend would just like throw on the pads at like a stick and puck, and ever since then, didn't look back.
Yeah. Those stick and puck times are always like the best times to like just especially when you're starting out to be a goalie, the stick and pucks are really fun because you get all the guys that just want to do breakaways or one timers and they want to come down when you're not even paying attention to them. So I remember those days.
Yeah, for sure. How old were you when you started playing goal?
I was about I want to say 12,
So
12 years old. So I
yeah,
was I was behind the eight ball on that one.
yeah, but you're you're at the pro level right now, so you have to be doing something, right?
Yeah, it's a lot of practice and a lot of skating and footwork that I did like always by myself. So I gotta thank my parents, my mom for that, always taking me to the rink and keeping me on my toes and everything about always skating and like never missing workouts. So I gotta give them credit.
Yeah, what was it like practicing in California?
Well, in California, so I played for Oakland Bears, and like it was the city where I was from, Oakland, California. There were a lot of rinks actually. I get questions all the time like, "Are there a lot of rinks in California?" I can go off the top of my head. There were 3 rinks, like 20, 30 minutes apart from my grandparents' house. There was one rink that was actually 6 minutes away, so that was kind of a huge plus for me. But with practices and everything, it was like a little bit tough because like, I went to like a couple of schools that weren't in my district area, and then the rink was 45 minutes away. So there were times where I would have school throughout the whole day, obviously, get off at 3:00, and then I would have a couple hours until practice. And actually, my parents lived an hour away. So I would go to practice at 5 or 6 and then have to drive all the way home in traffic and won't get home till 8, maybe 9:00. And then then I have to stay up and do my homework. And so I didn't have like an easy life like throughout high school or anything like that because of hockey.
Yeah, what was that like? Just like not being able to do your homework till like later in the night, but at least you got to practice.
Oh yeah, at least I got to practice, but I had some school troubles, but my parents stayed on me and they threatened to take hockey away if I didn't have my grades up. So I think that's what really pushed me to have good grades and everything, just because I didn't want hockey to be taken away from me. But there was times where it was tough because I would have to get up early in the morning sometimes if I was skating with like the older group. When I was like 14, 15, I was skating with the older guys, and sometimes they had their practices in the morning before school. So I would have to go to a practice like 6, 7 o'clock in the morning and then have to jet all the way back to school, which was like 40 minutes away.
Yeah, that just seems rough, but you got through it, so that's a good sign.
Yeah, a lot of good memories from those days.
Yeah, for sure. So after high school, you went on to play juniors in 2012, 2013 with the Bay Area Seals in the Western States Hockey League. What was that like for you, and how do you prepare for your first year in juniors?
Well, I didn't know much about the WSHL when like I had aged out like youth hockey and going into juniors. So I didn't know too much about that league, but it was nice because it was close to home. We were actually sharing the rink with the San Francisco Bulls that had that ECHL for that 1 year stint. And, for that year, it was really tough at first because I knew I wasn't going to be playing a lot of games because of my first year of juniors, so I had limited playing time, and I was all right with that because it's a learning experience. I was young, playing with a bunch of 19, 20-year-olds, so I had to get adjusted from youth hockey to juniors, and guys shot a lot harder than guys I'd seen in youth hockey regardless. So it was a big step for me. But, it was a memorable season because I know we had like a 14-game losing streak. And once it came around to the showcase that was held in Las Vegas, we basically went on a 21-game like tear. And we ended up going from last place in our division all the way to second place. And we made it all the way through to the Thorn Cup finals. And then we lost in a championship game. And then we had to go to nationals a week after, and we lost to Idaho, who we'd already lost to in the Thorn Cup. We lost to them in the championship game as well for nationals. So it was a good experience. A lot of memories that I can go. So.
Yeah, for sure. What was one thing that you took away from that season?
One thing I have to take away from that season, just don't take anything for granted, because I made a lot of teammates that year. I was fortunate enough to stick it out through the whole season. because I was from like Oakland, we were literally 30 minutes away from my hometown. So a lot of guys got moved around that year. So that was my first year experiencing like trades of juniors and whatnot. And I just can't take anything for granted.
Yeah, that just seems like the hockey world is all about people getting moved, so just can't take that for granted.
Yeah.
So that next year you played for the Lake Tahoe Blue, which were the Bay Area Seals the year before. What was it like playing for the same team but they're branded differently?
Our GM had moved our team from the Bay Area, and they moved it there to Lake Tahoe, so it was 3 hours away. I really didn't have any like intentions to be in the league again, because like after that year, like I had okayish numbers, but I had trained hard in the off season, so I went to try out in like the WSHL, and it went well. I made a couple of good friends up there, but it just wasn't meant to be. So I came back and I was like basically scrambling to try to find a place to play. So it was nice to come back to my old team and then only play 3 hours away from home this time. And a lot of people don't know that in Lake Tahoe it actually snows. So
Really?
we were actually playing in a nice high altitude area where it actually snows. So it was a blast up there. It was a little bit weird at first, not playing for Bay Area, but he just rebranded the team. But we only had 6 returners that year, so it was really weird for the first month and a half I was up there.
Yeah, for sure. That I did not know that it snowed up there, which that's interesting.
A lot of people think, oh, it doesn't snow in California, but yeah, there's a couple places where it really does snow, and that's one of the places. And we lived in like Incline Village, and that was freaking awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome. So that next year after you played back in the Western States, you went on to the Greater Metro Junior A Hockey League with the Perry Sound Islanders.
Yeah.
What was the biggest difference going from the WSHL to the Greater Metro?
I want to say like the speed, and the fact that there were more imports in the GMHL than there were in the WSHL at that time. And I didn't know in the GMHL that you can play like as an overager. And so, I didn't have any college offers or anything like that for when I was playing in the WSHL. So I had a teammate that was on Lake Tahoe with us, and he was like, hey, I know a good guy named Brandon Contrado. He coaches his team in the GMHL. Like, if you're interested, if you want to play another year, like, I'll talk to him and see if he can give you a call. And so, like, he gave me a call, and we had talked everything out. And, he's my best friend, actually,
Really?
to this day. Yeah, I've known him. I've known that coach since the GMHL. And, we've been best friends for like 5-6 years now. So, like, the hockey world is small, but I have to say, like, the speed is pretty different in the GMHL, and the rules. A lot of people said it was like I think it was like a pirate league or something because it's not like Hockey Canada related. So it was a bit of an eye opener. Like, I look back at it now, it's a little bit watered down, but when I was there, it was a lot of good players in that league.
Yeah, for sure. So you played 25 games that season, which was the most in your junior career, I believe it was.
Yeah.
So what was it like getting that many games and your team doing well?
I think that was the first time I actually had like a coach that was like really had a lot of confidence in me, and I was an overager, so we had a young team, and like he had told me right from the get-go that I can't give you a C or an A or anything like that. Like, why would you give a goalie a C or an A regardless? That's a little bit crazy. Like, I remember Luongo, he had a C.
Yeah.
I thought that was hilarious, but that was a lot of respect. So, But, he told me that I was going to be a leader regardless because I'm an overager and I'm one of the older guys and we're a young team. So it was nice to have that confidence in a coach. And, it was nice to play a lot of games because, like, I feel when I play a lot of games, I learn from certain mistakes and then you get better and better. And I think that's the thing with goalies. If you only play a short amount of games, you're not really progressing. You're regressing, I feel like, because you don't know when your next start is. So that's when I had my best time of juniors because I had a good season. The team was good. We had a lot of memories there. And, it was just great times because we had fun playing and I had fun playing as well.
Yeah. So since you played so many games, did you have something to help you like stay mentally sharp since you're out there playing a lot?
I read a lot of books. I read like the goalie mindset books and like I always looked on like breathing techniques and like how they say goalies have like they're a little bit off.
Yeah.
They always have like these quirky little things that they have to do, like superstitions. I used to have like superstitions where I had to do certain things before games, and I can remember in that time of those games, I remember we went on like a 6-game winning streak. I think I was playing at my best because like I always did the same routine like throughout the day. I always hung out with like the imports. I always walked around. I was never still, and I always took a pregame nap. So yeah, every time I did those things, it felt like it just worked for me. And then I started to get away from it, and then I realized, I got to go back to it.
Yeah. Would you consider yourself a superstitious goalie still to this day, or did that like go away?
No. I don't find myself superstitious. Like I remember when I came out of the juniors and I went to the Fed and I tried to do that one time. I was like, this is not going to work. It's a whole different level. You can't do that. Like you got to treat your body right. And I had to change a lot of things up. So I don't think I would say I'm superstitious anymore. I just go with the flow with a lot of things now.
Yeah, that's a problem I have right now. I'm like super superstitious. So, and like once one thing throws me off, it's game over. So, but I'm getting my mental like sharpness is getting a lot better though. So, can't complain about that.
Yeah.
So you played. You guys went to the playoffs that year in the GMHL. So, what experience did you gain from playing in the playoffs?
That year it was tough for me because I knew it was my last year junior, so I kind of wanted to prolong the playoffs as long as I could. But we just went up against a team that was just really stacked. So I learned that like if you want to prolong, like to stay in the playoffs and get to the championship, like you have to work really hard. I felt like our team was so young; it was too much for our team to handle, and I think it was too much for me to handle as well because that was my first year actually starting in playoff games. Because when I was in the WS, that year we went through the playoffs like multiple rounds and championships. I really didn't see the net. I backed up every single game. But we had a great goalie, and we were going to ride him out until the end, and I was fine with that. And like me and him are good buddies still. I knew my part was to just be there for the guys, and if we had optional skates to skate. So when I was starting in the GMHL and we got to the playoffs, it was kind of different for me, and it was really hard to like keep that momentum and like help the guys out. And I did everything I could, but we just fell short in that first round.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, but at least you learned something though that year.
Yeah.
So that same year, after you finished your junior season at GM, you went overseas to New Zealand, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was just it was a quick turnaround. Like right after my season ended, I think I had like a couple weeks off, and it was like just the summertime, and it was just a summer league down there.
Yeah, so you played with the Botany Swarm in the NZIHL. So
Yeah.
what was that experience like playing in New Zealand overseas?
Honestly, if I can recommend anybody to like just travel and do anything for hockey, I would say like go to New Zealand because it was a big eye opener, and it basically is because because of that guy, my coach, Brandon Conchado, who's like one of my dear friends now. He's the reason that I got to go down there, and a few guys that are on the team in Parry Sound, they were from New Zealand, so they convinced me to come down there and play for their team and whatnot. And I had a blast down there. It was the most like fun I had, like experiencing going to another country and seeing a different culture and everything like that, and visiting different cities down there. I mean, different islands. Sorry, it was a great time.
Yeah. So, what was your the best moment down there? Like, what was your favorite time? The favorite thing that you did down there?
Oh, so when I was down there, I worked for the ice rink, and I think building an ice rink in the town square, and it was they did all the public skating sessions. That was a great time because I'm coming from California and I'm going down to New Zealand, and I'm helping them build an outdoor ice rink, and like I got to see a first eye view of like how they put a rink in and everything. But I think the fondest memory was when we went to Queenstown, and we had an extra day after the games. I can say that we went out and a little bit partied after one of the games, and in Queenstown, it actually snowed down there. So that's another fact about Queenstown.
Wow.
Like it snows in New Zealand. So but that's one of the islands. But I have to say when we went down there, all the guys got pretty loose after after the weekend games, and like some guys didn't have to go to work on Monday. So the guys went out and had a good time down there.
Yeah, that seems like fun. Sometimes you just gotta let loose.
Yeah, so, especially like me being that young, to get to go and travel to a different country. Like I said, it was a great experience. Like I was able to do things at 20, 21, 22 that kids in California who I went to high school with never got to do. So I was being able to travel so much just because of hockey. So it was a great time.
Yeah, that just seems like an unreal experience. What was the weather like down there besides it snowing?
It rained a lot, and like people don't understand. Like, so I went down there when in the United States it's our summertime. Down there it's actually their winter time. So it rained a lot. There was a lot of nice days, like clear sunny skies, but we just didn't have like the hot weather, and that was unfortunate. Like, so during Christmas time is basically their summer still, but it's still like the holidays,
Yeah.
So it was weird for me at first, but I had a great time. I can't complain about New Zealand.
Yeah, and that's awesome. So, what would you say was the biggest difference from playing on North American ice to the one you played in New Zealand?
Well, every ice rink that I played down there was different. I can tell you in Queenstown, before they fixed it up the last 2 years, I remember in Queenstown, they had cages behind the net. Like there was no plexiglass or anything like that. It was like a cage. So it was weird if I blockered something up, and the roof was so small. Like if I blockered it up into the air, it would just hit the ceiling or it hit the cage, and they still considered it in.
Wow.
But the fans down there are pretty rowdy. Even when we went to Christchurch, like it was a smaller sheet of ice, and I can remember like the fans were like just so close. Like I can get into a yelling match with one of the fans, and that was my first time actually interacting with fans down there, and they were just getting under my skin a lot. But it was all for fun and stuff. They were cool right after the game.
Yeah, that's an interesting experience. I've never heard of that one before.
Yeah, the whole cage, the bird cage, I was laughing. It was like that was a huge eye opener when I was down there.
Yeah, it'd be very interesting to play with a cage behind the net, or like all around it too.
Yeah, but there were some funny moments when I was down there. I can remember they had for my team they had for the import. So if you're an American or Canadian or a European down there, you're only allowed 3 or 4 imports on the team. But they had this ritual where for botany, when you won the first home game of the season, the imports had to like get their gear off quickly, and the Zam comes out onto the ice and does one clean strip, like just a single clean strip straight down from the goal line, from the goalie crease down to the other goalie crease, and the imports have to skate around in their jock straps only. They have to skate 2 laps, and then they have to slide down that clean cut of ice.
What the hell?
Yeah, it was a weird ritual, and I remember I found it on my phone. Like I had it saved a year ago, and I was just laughing. I was like, I can't believe I had to do this. And like you're skating around, and all the fans are cheering, but the only thing you're wearing is your jock straps. So
Yeah, that's interesting.
was
Interesting for sure.
it was very funny.
But it's all shits and giggles though.
Yeah, it was just all fun and games.
Yeah. So that very next season, that was when you first entered your first professional season in the Federal League with Berlin River Dragons, I believe it was.
Yeah, Berlin River Drivers.
So what was that experience like signing your first ever professional deal?
It was a great feeling, like I went and turned pro. I was a little bit nervous because I didn't know what was going to happen. And, right when my season ended in the GMHL, like I had a week where I went and spent time with a FHL team, and I just went to go practice. And, I didn't know what to think of the league, but I kind of kept that in the back burner. I really didn't think too much about it. So it was tough at first because I literally just finished in New Zealand, and I went back to California just basically for a month to train. And then I went to Berlin, New Hampshire, where I knew nothing about. It was up in the mountains in New Hampshire. It was a great time, I have to say. A lot of hardships, but everybody got through it.
Yeah, so what was the biggest difference for you from playing juniors to playing in the Fed? Was it what you expected, or was it different?
It was a little bit different at first because back then in the FHL, there was a lot of fighting back then. Now it's a lot more skill. It's like a lot of younger guys, a lot of D3 college guys or Europeans are like really skilled and talented. Back then it was like a dump and chase, and it's just banging bodies back then. So I was playing against a lot of older men and a lot of older guys who had been in the league for a long time. And, for me at 22 years old or 21, I forgot how old I was when I entered that. It was an eye-opener, and I can tell you I was very nervous because I was away from home again, but this time it was like a whole different level.
Yeah, and so how'd that first year go for you?
It was a learning year for me. I had a goalie partner named Brad Barone. He had played 4 years at Boston College, and he was just like looking for a starting spot. You know what? I learned a lot from that kid. I learned how like a Division I goalie prepares for games and like how he practices, and like he always helped me out. I think he's still kicking right now in the ECHL. I'm not too sure, but yeah, I learned a lot from that guy that year. He was a great mentor. I knew I was going to play a lot of games, but I think I didn't play my 4th game until like the ending of the season. Oh. So I stuck it out. It was a long year for me, I can tell you that, but I stuck it out. And you know what? I made a lot of good friendships. I wasn't thinking about how many games I was going to play. I was just thinking about how to get better at this level and like how I can move up.
Yeah, exactly. That's all your mindset has to be, is like just like getting better and doing whatever it takes to get to that next level.
Right.
So that next year, you only played two. You started out the season with Berlin, and you played
Mhm.
2 games before getting moved to the SCS Fighting Saints. So
Yeah.
what was it like getting moved during the season?
Well, like I was happy to go back to Berlin, but some things just didn't work out. Like I remember I got my first pro win that year. So that first year I didn't get a win in those 4 5 games. I don't forget how many I played that first year. Uh, but when I went back the second year, I had revamped my whole summer off season training, and my whole workouts too back in California. So I felt like that year was going to be a lot different for me, but I guess me and the coach and organization felt like it wasn't going to work out. There are some things that happened after the second game that I got pulled in, and then another goalie came in, so I guess it just didn't work out. So some things happened, and I just decided like it wasn't meant for me to be there, so I left. I
Yeah,
literally sat at home for a month and a half
cool.
before. I sat at home for like a month and a half before getting a call from my other friend Brandon, and he's in Michigan, and he was going to be like, I think he was like the assistant coach of that team. And so they're like, yeah, they need another goalie. So I was like, yeah, I'm all in. Like he never steered me wrong or anything like that. So I was happy to join that team.
Yeah, for sure. So what was your mindset like during that month and a half you were gone at home?
I felt like I had the ice rink to skate all the time whenever I wanted.
Yeah, so how do you stay positive when you like during through all throughout that time?
It can happen. So, I just listened to coach, just tried to keep my mind calm. And I was having fun because I was still skating every day. Like,
Yeah, so you just gotta stay positive throughout that time for sure. So that's pretty much all you gotta do at that time, and keep training. So so in 2018, 2019, it was a big year for you as you played in 11 games for the Carolina Thunderbirds and went 9-1 with a 2.61 goals against average. What was going right for you that season? So can you take us through like that whole 2018-19 year again? Like
oh,
what
yeah,
was
for sure.
going right for you that season?
Like everything that I had worked on in the off season, because I had changed up my workout habits, and I decided to go train with uh, Boojang Goaltending in Hamilton, Ontario. I think I think that was the best choice I've ever made to go train with them instead of staying in California, because all my friends had left California because they were either off at college or they were off at juniors wherever they were playing. They decided to stay for the summer. So um, once I made that choice to go train up there, that's how I met Jamie Phillips and like a couple other guys that played in like the OHL or like the Dell or Dell 2. So once I went up there, then I started working with them. I could tell like it was going to be a different year for me. So I knew my skating was a lot better. My angles were a lot better that year, and I think I was just reacting a lot quicker, and I was in a lot better shape than I was that coming into that season than I was like prior seasons.
Yeah, for sure. So talking about Jamie Phillips, he was actually on the podcast, our very first professional athlete. So
Mm-hmm.
what was your friendship like with him?
He's a good guy. He's easy to talk to. Like if I was ever dealing with something with hockey, if I was ever going through stuff, like he's just a phone call away. To see how a guy that played in NCAA and get drafted into the NHL and see how he trains and how he works out and how he just carries himself as a person, like hats off to him because he's a great guy. He's a great role model for even all the younger goalies that train at Bujan goaltending. Like he's just a great guy all around. So I can't say anything else. Like I can't even say anything bad about the guy.
Yeah, he's such a great guy, and he's also helped me with some of my game. I sent him some of my footage from games, and he's reviewed them and got back to me with what I did wrong. So nothing bad to say about Jamie.
Yeah, him and Derek Boudreaux, they're great at that. To be working with those guys and training with those guys in the off season, it's a real treat because they stay on top of you about your workouts. They stay on top of you about like what you do wrong on the ice and what you do right. And like I think that's what a lot of goalies need to find is like coaches that like push those guys to want to be better, and those goalies that need to like actually look at like what they're doing on the ice, and they need to analyze things, and they do a great job at analyzing everything. So it's great skating with them in the summertime.
Yeah, I bet. They're both just awesome guys all around. So
yeah, they are.
So going back to 2018-19 season, you also got into a goalie tilt that season. So what happened during that game, and what started the fight?
Oh, well, we always had, when I was playing in Carolina, we always had an issue with men or icebreakers. And, it always seemed like there was bad blood between the teams, but no one went too far. But I remember there was always a fight. So the game before, we had beat the team 9-1, I believe. And the same goalie got pulled twice that game.
Oh.
So he wasn't in the right headspace. So the second game, they decided they went back to him again. And I didn't play the first game. I was actually up in the stands watching far from above. And so I kind of knew that, like, after we beat them that bad, like, the second game wasn't going to be pretty. So I was just in the net, and, something happened where one of their guys hit one of our captains and everything, and, like, a fight happened. So I guess their trainer was walking across the ice, and one of our guys said something, and all I saw was one of our assistant captains. He got high sticked right in the face, and it was right in front of both benches. And so when that happened, like, you just see guys jumping off the bench, guys, all the gears just flying on the ice and stuff. I looked at I'm not paying attention. I was benches, and I was skating around the faceoff dot, and I just see him, like, just skating out of his crease, and he's crossed the red line. I was like, all right, we're going to really do this. And then I just chucked my gloves, and, that was my first time in a goalie fight, so I was pretty amped up and everything. But, yeah, the fight just happened, and then I just started to pump the crowd up right after that.
I watched that video yesterday, and you're throwing some bombs on that guy.
Yeah, well, I can tell you, like, that summer when I got back from Canada, I remember our coach in Carolina was, like, making everybody hit the boxing gloves, and, like, everybody was hitting the bag, like, when we had workouts and stuff. So I guess I got a little help from him at early on in the season, but I remember all that went through my head after when I watched the videos. I was like, I switched up on the goalie a couple of times, and I was like, I might hurt this kid. if I didn't land a couple punches, I was like, I might hurt this kid right
now. Yeah. So you're throwing those bombs. So would you ever get into another fight if you were ever challenged again?
I probably would. I think my inner Ray Emery came out at that fight, and I watched a couple of videos on him on how he fought in the NHL. But I mean, if I had another chance to fight, I would. But, like, it just depends on the time of like the game and like how the game is going. Like goalies, we always think about that, you know.
Yeah.
If you want to just be in the game still, or if you want to like get out the game. There's a lot of factors into it. But if like someone ran me and like I was angry about it, then I probably would drop it with them.
Yeah, for sure. So that's something I really want to do sometime soon. I almost had the chance twice last year, but everything got settled down before I was able to decide if I wanted to go in or not.
Yeah. I thought there was going to be one this year too because there was some bad blood between me and another goalie.
Really?
But yeah, I'm just going to keep that one to myself.
Yeah.
We're not going to expose anybody on this.
Yeah, for sure. So in 2018-19, you also got injured during that season. Had to go through surgery, right?
Yeah.
So what was it like being injured and having to be able to get away from the game?
Well, you know, like that was the season we won the championship. And you know, like I was having a great year. It was right after game one. So it was going into game two. We had just got back from Michigan that morning because we had to play the first game on the road. And then the second, third game was at home. I was just basically out in the hallway and I was warming up and literally I just did my skater like hops and like I was always jumping and sprint. And as soon as I landed, my toes hit the ground, but my heel did not even come close to touching the ground. And I ended up tearing my Achilles. And that was the worst pain I've ever felt in my life. It felt like you got shot, and it sounds like a gunshot when you tear it as well. So I remember going down screaming, and this is an hour before we have to be on the ice for warm-ups. So I know they have to delay warm-ups, and they have to call to get our other goalie, Kelly Curl, to come back, and like he had to back up. But I was so defeated when that happened because nothing bad went on that entire year. And I remember saying to myself, this season is too good to be true because something has to happen. And you know what? Like it played the devil's advocate on myself, and I ended up like having surgery 2 days after, and you know, just hearing from the doctors that I tore my Achilles, and I just cried and cried, and I was just like, what's gonna happen? Like, when can I get back on the ice? How long is this gonna take for recovery? So a lot of things ran through my mind, but it was the toughest part of my summer to like hear like, oh, your season is done. It's going to take surgery to fix this, and you're going to probably be out 6 to 8 months. It was kind of gut wrenching when I heard everything about that.
Yeah, for sure. So what did you learn about being injured, like your training wise and just recovery wise?
Well, I was very limited with training. You know, I remember the first month I really couldn't work out because like once you have surgery, you can't really do anything to have blood rushing through your body with all the stitching and everything. So I had to like find new ways to work out. I knew I had to like eat properly because I didn't want to become a bag of milk right after all of this because I knew how hard it was going to be once I was able to get back on the ice again. So I think eating properly was like a major thing that I realized I had to do. I was very limited with like moving around and stuff. I was on crutches for like a month and a half, and I was in a hard cast and a soft cast 2 different times. So I would crutch all the way up to the gym upstairs at the apartments, up the hill, like to the apartment office, just so I can go do abs or something, or just do some push-ups like on my knees and whatnot. So I had to really change up a lot of things that summer.
Yeah, for sure. But at least we're glad to see you up and competing again, like this season.
Yeah, the doctors told me like, yeah, this will take. You won't be fully like yourself until like a whole year after all this has happened. But he did tell me at one point it was going to take between 6 to 8 months. And, I'm not the type of person that just wants to lay around all day and like feel sorry for myself or anything like that. I knew if I wanted to be back on the ice, I had to do something about it. So that's why I was in physical rehab for like 3 times a week. Like usually people would just go in once a week or something for the first month and a half.
Yeah.
I was like, no, I'm going to rehab like 3 times a week, maybe 4 if I feel like it, because I had the urge to be back on the ice as quick as I could.
Yeah, for sure. And as long as it recovered well, then I guess you're doing something right.
Yeah, and even my doctor, who had did my surgeon actually, who had did the surgery on me, he had told me that he always worked. He did so many surgeries for Wake Forest, like football players or anything like that. So I was in good hands, and I knew I was in good hands too. So I just listened to what he told me to do. I listened to my rehab doctor on what he told me to do as well, like all the exercises. So even when I was still at home, I would still do all the band works and everything just so I can try to get a upper hand on the injury, just so I can try to speed up the process.
Yeah. Yeah, so like you said earlier, this is also your championship year. So were you able to partake in like the championship events with this injury?
Oh yeah, I can remember like we won on the road and everything, and I was just hobbling on one foot, and like I'd already had the surgery like 2 weeks prior to us being like on the road. So when we went on the road, I was hobbling on one foot on the ice, jumping up and down with my teammates, and I think that was the greatest feeling because I didn't feel left out or anything. Like I felt like it was taken away from me because I wish I was in my gear celebrating with the guys, but I was like on crutches celebrating with them. So, I still was a part of the team and everything. I had a great time celebrating with those guys.
Yeah, so at least you got a chance to go on the ice and partake in the events.
Oh yeah,
so it didn't limit you.
Yeah, it didn't limit me. I had 2 of the other scratches like carrying me when we were like taking the pictures and stuff, and then especially when we got back into Winston-Salem, North Carolina. I remember when we were partying for that whole week, and then we had the whole celebration at our rink. There's a picture of my goalie partner after he got introduced. I was the last person because like I was the last number. Our GM doesn't believe in numbers over 35. So I was the last number. And I remember our starting goalie, Christian Pavlis, went out and like he was saluting to the fans and everything. And then he was like 1 second, he ran back into the tunnel. And then I jumped on his back and he was carrying me on the ice. And I was a little skeptical at first because if he would have dropped me, that would have been really bad. But I remember I jumped on his back, and there's a photo of that somewhere. Someone got me and him. I was on his back, and he was bringing me to the ramp and everything for like the crowd celebrated, and it was an awesome memory.
That's awesome. The memories just seem like that season they're unreal.
Oh yeah.
Some stuff did happen that you didn't want to happen, but at least you ended it with a championship.
Yeah.
So going into this season, 2019-2020, what do you expect?
Well, I had expected I was going to play a lot of games because, coming off of having a good season, I thought I was going to get warranted with a little bit more playing time. And, I'd worked my bag off just to even get back into, like, game shape after this whole injury. So I came back 2 months ahead of schedule. And I only had 2 months to really train. So as soon as I got the clearance from the doctor, I was up in Canada training right away. First time skating in, like, months. So I got back to Carolina around October, just in time for training camp. And, we were pretty stacked with the goalie position again. We had one returner from the SP, and I thought it was going to be me and him again, but ended up we had 3 goalies, so I was kind of third man out, and I was kind of getting frustrated with the whole playing time thing again. So I didn't know how many games I was going to play, but I knew it was a very short, limited amount of playing games, maybe the same amount as I did the year before. So I kind of wasn't really happy about that.
Yeah, so it was a suitcase of a year for you this season.
Yeah.
So you started out with Carolina and played, I believe it was 17 games I saw in Elite Elite Prospects. But then you got sent to the Mentor Icebreakers, where I don't think things were as hot as you wanted it to be. And then you finally signed with Columbus River Dragons. Take us through all that.
Like Carolina, that place always holds something special to my heart. A lot of memories, a lot of great friendships, a lot of people I had met. So when I came back, I thought things were going to be a little bit different. It wasn't really. So it was kind of tough for me. My first time ever asking to be moved. I was in Carolina for basically, it was going to be my 3rd year. So we had a lot of memories from the first year before, and then last year. So it was kind of tough for me to go and ask to be moved because I'm at this point where I need to think about my hockey future and I have to worry about my career. And I thought it was the best thing for me to go and actually play somewhere and not get held back. In which I always felt like I felt like I was just getting held back, and I wasn't progressing because I didn't know when the next time I was going to be able to start in net. And we had a great coach there. He's really smart and a great guy as well. So I can't say anything bad about that. But I knew my time there was just dwindling down, and I just wanted to get moved to go play somewhere else.
Yeah, for sure. So it was one crazy of a season for you.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
Yeah.
So when I got moved to Minner, the first 2 games, or the first 2 games were in Carolina.
Cool.
And that was really tough for me because I didn't think I was going to get moved around that time, but it was out of nowhere. Practice ended, and then I just got told I was traded right at the end of practice. So I had to hurry up and move things around. But luckily, that Minner was coming to Carolina, so I didn't have to leave right away. I just had to stay. And I didn't practice for 1 day, and then when Minner got there, we practiced, and then I practiced with them, and then we had the games. So I didn't start the first night, but the other goalie got pulled, and then I had to go in. So it was it was a real emotional night. It was really tough. I played my heart out. We were already down 2-0, and we ended up losing 4-2. And then the next night was just a gong show what happened. But then I went to Minner for a month and a half, and things were just not as great as I thought it was going to be. And I was not in a great mental headspace. So I had to make a choice to kind of leave and try to revamp myself because I was to the point where I was giving up on myself.
Yeah. So it was a rough start for you with a mentor, and then you finally got traded to Columbus. What was that like going from mentor to Columbus?
Once I left Minner, I was basically waiting around, and I got put on waivers, and I came back to North Carolina and just chilled with my friends. And finally, I was put on waivers, and I got picked up by Columbus, and it was pretty much the greatest feeling ever because I was going to an organization where I knew a bunch of the guys that were on Carolina before, but they were playing for Columbus at this point. So I was more than happy to just get down there and everything. And contrary again, the first game of that weekend was against Carolina. So now I'm in a different uniform backing up for a different team against my old team again. So it was a whirlwind of things that happened this year. Like you can't even write it up. And,
Yeah.
I'm just happy that like it's over with now, and then like I can move on and now focus for next season and hopefully be in Columbus again.
Yeah. So what was some things that you learned the most, especially since you got moved around a lot this season and the whole like pandemic thing coming into play in the middle of March?
I realized this year, like, like jobs are always on the line. Like nothing's really warranted. But I learned that like keeping yourself happy, keeping your mental state like calm and everything, and not get too worked up over everything. Like I learned that you can only control what you can control, and that's my game, and that's like myself. So that's the biggest takeaway that I can give from this year. With this whole pandemic going on right now, it really sucks. I really feel for all the people that are sick. It sucks like how our season ended. Like basically, there's no champion this year. There's no repeats or anything like that. It sucks because like guys just want to play hockey. It feels like we all got cut short really like from this season, because I think it would have been a good playoff round like for both conferences in the league this year.
Yeah, for sure. Just sucks that hockey ended so soon, especially for you guys who are playing professionally and it's your job. And then one day you're practicing, the other day your whole season gets canceled. So it must have really sucked. So what was your first?
We all knew it was coming.
Yeah.
We all knew it was coming because once we saw the NHL like suspend and then other sports were suspending, once we saw the SPHL, they were canceling their season. We knew something was coming, and we luckily we didn't even leave yet because we were supposed to be on the road in Danville that night. We were supposed to be busing there, and we got to the rink and we had a meeting. Basically, like we found out like we weren't going, and they were having meetings and figuring out what was going on. So once we found that out about the SP, we knew our season was kind of done.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate. It was a shit show, but I feel for all the people that are sick, and I hope that everyone's like staying safe and healthy throughout the world.
Yeah, that's the best thing. Like I just hope for everybody to like stay safe. A lot of my friends, even friends who are playing like overseas too, like I hope they're safe. I just hope for everybody to stay safe and like listen to what people are telling you to do, because like overall, like I think it will work.
Yeah, exactly. They're the professionals out there, so we just gotta listen to them.
Right.
So, what were some of your favorite moments from this season?
I would have to say, favorite moment was getting those championship rings on the second night, not opening night for us, but on our second night, the home opener weekend, getting those championship rings. Like it was a sight to see. Like I know my eyes kind of lit up when I saw that. I have to say the funniest thing though I saw was when we had the championship banner on opening night. It went like halfway up and then it fell. I was laughing because I can tell you there was a lot of guys on the ice in Carolina. We were laughing because like we knew something was going to happen. Like nothing goes perfect all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, I would have to say those two things were highlights, and then getting down to Columbus, Georgia, like it was a great memory.
Yeah, for sure. Those all seem like happy memories, and it gets you through the time that we're in right now. Just looking back at all that and just thinking about how what favorite moments you have from the season.
Mm-hmm.
So we have one more question for you. So, what tips would you give goaltenders looking to get into the professional or junior hockey world, or just moving up in general?
I can tell them basically like if you really want it, you have to go out and get it. And when I say that, I mean like you have to work hard every day. You have to battle for your positions every day. You can't take anything for granted, and nothing is like warranted because there's someone else that's gonna like want to take your job every day. So like you can always have fun with the boys and everything, but when you're on the ice, like you're on the ice and you need to worry about yourself and do your own job, because that's what's gonna like get you through those hard times. Is if you just keep working hard and everything, you'll be fine.
Yeah, so that's a great tip to end this episode on. So Frankie, it was an honor having you on the show and talking some hockey. I appreciate your time, and I want to wish you luck for the rest of for next year, and hopefully I can come see you play sometime next year.
Sweet, man. Thanks for having me on. It was an honor.
Yeah, no problem.